Nerd Skool is a member of the Queen City Podcast Network, powered by OrthoCarolina. Now offering video visits, so you can take control of your orthopedic care from the comfort of your home. Schedule online at orthocarolina.com. OrthoCarolina, you improve.
Hey, fellows. It's the first night of another season.
Nerds roll. Nerds roll.
My glasses are broken.
And this will begin season 2 of Nerd Skool.
Welcome back to season 2, Nerd High. Glad to have you.
It's gonna be crazy stunts. We're gonna there's gonna be stunts.
Joe's gonna
Fireworks.
bring more penis jokes.
There's a lot of penis stuff.
I am a super nerd.
The Nerd Skool Podcast.
Starring Andy,
Star Spangled Band with a plan.
Maybe I'll try to do a cartwheel.
TBJ,
Welcome. Congratulations. You did dirt. Ta-da. I ain't got no shame. All my exes can tune in. We can have an episode where I compare them to all the Marvel villains. We can do that.
Art Star,
I don't love Wiener. I'm just trying to make money.
Lord Artemis Prime rises.
Yeah, my real name is Joe.
Did I ever tell you about the time I hung out with DMC at Mertz?
The Nerd Skool Podcast.
A drag queen. Unfortunately, I am already a woman.
Okay, and we are. That's a great way to start. I hope you got that. That's a perfect way to start this next episode. We are back with season 2, another episode. And now, what we did, if you all are big fans of Nerd Skool, you listen
As
to last
you
season,
should be.
If you guys are all Schooly D's,
if you've been paying attention,
can we call our fans Schooly D's?
Schooly D's?
I came up with the Nerve Hive.
The Nerd
You did talk
Hive.
about the Nerd High.
Why are they bees?
I mean, everything's a high.
Yeah, it's like Bayhive.
Well, because we are in the Queen City. It's
That
the
is
hive.
accurate.
Bada bing.
Buzz City.
That
all
we
right.
are Buzz City.
I just been
Buzz
schooled
City,
by
yeah.
Art Star.
The Nerd
He
Hive.
feels
a
like
ta-
he
no,
just hit a home
hold
run
on.
against
It was
Nolan
a
Ryan.
tag team.
Oh,
The
that's
Rock
Schooly
and Roll Express of Nerds.
So, dear Nerd Hive, if you listen to our final episode of season 1, we each got to pick a movie that we would watch collectively and talk about.
Yes.
And Joe, is this your choice?
This was mine. We went with
was
mine. We were going in
an
order.
odd pick.
We're going in order of the release date
Yeah.
of these movies. I
And Joe had the weirdest pick.
did. And I picked this because I vaguely remember it from my childhood. And as we get into it, there's a lot of things that I knew what was going to happen, but I didn't know that I knew. Like, I predicted them, and there's somewhere in my memory of being 10 years old when this came out that I saw this. Probably shouldn't have saw it when I was 10 sometimes. But anyway. But I remembered it vaguely, and I remember finding out years later that it was based on a comic book, and I was, like, surprised by that. And so I have a lot of questions about that. Like, this is a comic book?
This is
What?
awesome that you're doing it around this time, too, because we're also getting new Howard Duck stuff.
We even
soon.
said the name of the movie, Howard the
Well,
Duck.
no, I mean, even before that, like,
Yeah, so you-
No,
Howard,
we hadn't said it here yet.
Yeah, so
my-
we were
I'm
just
sorry
where
about
you
that.
guys were hinting at it at the end of the last episode. So you're saying they're making another Howard the Duck movie?
They are trying very hard.
But see, what I was talking
the
about is
same-
Howard the Duck is going to have some part in the What If series that comes out after
Yes,
Loki.
there's a What If animated series. That's I
Oh, it's
imagine
animated.
Yeah.
it's going to be like I would imagine it's going to be a series of one-shot episodes.
Yeah.
I think so.
Like what if Peggy Carter had the super soldier serum instead of Steve Rogers?
And she becomes
That's
Captain
one of them,
Carter.
or is that
Yeah.
just an
Yeah, that's one of
And
them.
then, like, the Black Panther is a Ravager. He's
like
Oh, this is going to be up Art Star's alley.
yeah.
this
What
whole
if
thing.
what if Yondu picked
Right.
up
Very much.
T'Challa instead of Peter Quill and
Well, who's Yondu? Oh, he's the blue guy.
whistle.
yeah from Guardians of the Galaxy?
If
who-
he picks up what?
Instead of Star-Lord going out in outer space and
Yeah.
becoming Star-Lord, what if he picked up T'Challa
And
and
if-
had lived that same life?
So these are all
Chadwick
just like
Boseman's
one-off
last-
episodes that won't be in.
yeah, Chadwick Boseman's
But
last
Chadwick
T'Challa
Boseman's in
performance.
it. You know, he did the voice.
Yeah.
So we know this already happened. We know
Yeah.
he does,
Yeah, Black
Yeah.
Panther.
but we know what happens in that episode.
No.
We don't know what happens. We just know.
We just know he's in it. That's
Yeah.
what we know.
And like, there's various other things, and the
Okay, that's exciting. That's
Yeah.
cool. But I still feel like I'll need you guys to help understand why what I'm watching and why. Like, why is this? What am I missing?
I have a feeling since they're standalone, they're going to explain themselves pretty well.
Yeah.
Just
And it's
like,
really like true fantasy.
And these come
it's
out
like
this
narrated.
month?
It was
It's this month?
August 11th, I believe,
August.
is,
Yeah.
is the debut.
Oh, I'll
of
be
it.
dead by then.
What are you doing between now and August?
Oh, I live
11th?
hard. I live hard, TBJ.
Okay.
Rock and Roll Express.
Yeah, we're the
remember?
Rock and Roll Express. Woo! We're styling
Y'all.
and profiling. Woo! We're living large.
Okay.
And you are approaching mullet length hair. So
Yes,
just-
that's baby. Woo! We're
Yeah.
in limousines, sky riding, freewheeling, and dealing.
that's like
We're starting to-
Ric Flair gibberish.
Yeah, we're starting. We're going to be a tag team. We're
Totally.
going to really get in the We're going to
Totally.
walk onto the wrestling power
I'm
pole.
gonna start putting out contractual requests.
I've already got
when
her
I
finishing
come in
move.
and
I'm going to
record.
jump off of his shoulders onto a guy, and
I
then
won't be there.
Art's gonna splash all of us,
Right.
I won't. be
Totally.
there.
and then I'll pin him.
All right. Back,
Earthquake
back,
splash. Oh,
back to Howard the Duck. Who now?
And then you'll do the Garvin
See?
stomp while I'm
right.
Yeah,
This is the
is
only
how
time
we
TBJ
get
is
it.
going to want to talk about Howard the Duck. Is to
Yes.
get away-
is to get away from this.
accurate.
That's how we do it. You give them something much worse, and then they'll take the first thing you want them to do
Exactly.
anyway.
I still think it's a
Bait
dumb
and
movie,
switch.
but
Bait and switch.
Sure.
That's
So
why I did
Howard
all-
the
yeah.
Duck is a, I believe, 1986 film. George Lucas had a hand in producing it,
He sure did.
based on a
Yes.
Marvel Comics character from the 1970s that was basically created by Steve Gerber and intended sort of as a satirical mockery of certain comics.
Okay, so when they wrote it, it was a mockery of comics. When they wrote the
Kind of, yeah. I mean, his first appearance was in, I forgot the name of the book already, but it was like Adventure into Time or
Yeah, and I
like
think they
Journey
said
into
it wasn't
Mystery or
just
something
on
like that.
other comics. I think it was a satirical take on some other
Yeah,
relevant
like
issues.
the fact he drops the reference to being a master of quack fu
Yeah.
in
Yes,
his
that
mid
was
70s.
great.
So it was like a shot at the fact that martial arts films were huge at the time.
in the
everywhere.
70s.
In the
That's
70s.
when it was
and
written.
even Marvel had like Iron Fist and Shang-Chi, the master of Kung Fu, as
Okay.
the big comics at the time.
Yeah.
And,
So it was directed by Willard Hike.
Hike, I think it's pronounced.
He also directed American Graffiti, which I guess he did with Lucas.
Yeah.
And Indiana Jones and the Temple of Doom, I think also was that
Yeah.
Lucas too.
And Lucas brought in his people.
Yeah.
Which
never
you
heard
would
of this
think
guy.
would make the film good. But,
Yeah.
but no.
I read that Lucas put a ton of money into this and lost a bunch of money.
Oh, it flopped.
And like tons of money into the costume itself, the Howard the Duck, like the costume or puppet or whatever it is.
No, it's a
It's a
costume.
costume because there's 8 people that
yeah.
play it or whatever.
3.
But they said this was around the same time I guess he did his Star Wars Land that he came out with or something, like some kind of Star Wars, some kind of amusement park or something, and so he lost tons of money, and so somebody bailed him out. Steve Jobs or Wozniak,
Steven
or
Spielberg?
one of the Apple guys, Wozniak or Jobs, I can't remember who. Anyway, they bailed him out and gave him too much money. They bailed him out by buying his. He had like a Lucasfilm subset that was like animation stuff, and they bought that, and that became Pixar, what Pixar is. Because of Howard the Duck. So it's like because of Howard the Duck, he had to sell that, and it became Pixar.
That came out of
So it might not
Howard the
become
Duck.
Pixar if Howard the Duck didn't happen. So
And flop happened and
Be as
flop.
bad as it was.
Rightfully flop.
Well, it was. Well, Art and I just bumped into each other on the street the other day. We were like, it wasn't that bad. It was fun.
What
But I'm
world
remember
were you
But
in?
here's the thing.
if you look at it for what it is,
yeah,
you look
and
at
from
it
the
as a bad
time
movie.
and from the time period, like you have, like, and I even mentioned to
It
Joe.
reminded me of my childhood.
I-
so
I
much.
even-
All movies were like this when I was a
Yeah,
kid.
I even told Joe, maybe like
All
just
movies had a
just
giant
They were
watching this
good.
movie made me question
Your sexuality?
He already questioned
Dang,
that
okay.
last episode.
Oh, that's
with
right, when
Joe.
he said
Oh, he
Long
did
time
not
ago.
question.
Yeah.
He did not question. He just merely
It's
stated
okay.
that he
Be
had
who
a
you
man
are.
crush on Tom Hiddleston.
That's
Yeah.
okay.
That-
That's okay. It's okay to
Love
have a
who
man
you
crush.
love.
Yeah,
Art
we can do that
Stone.
now.
Love
We
is
can do that
love.
now.
I'm here for
You can
it.
always do
I
that.
feel,
Listen.
I feel like
Tiffany loves everybody.
I didn't get that.
She's here for them all.
But I was saying
Unless she
that,
has a
like,
headache.
I was
do.
telling Joe that watching this movie made me question why I like Top Gun. Then I also maybe it was because it was the time.
That's a good question to have.
It was the time, like the movies in the mid '80s. Growing up, it's like you watch them. Certain things on the big screen, like even now, like there are probably some little kid who goes to these Marvel movies and be like, this toy I'm playing with on the screen. It's like, whoa, they're really excited about that. So, like, even some of the things in this movie, I'm like, old me, like, oh, this shit is bad. But back then, I could see why I would be geeked on this type of stuff.
I'm going to say that I was also alive during that time period.
He was like, what, 4?
He's older than 4. I don't know how. I mean, thank you. I don't know how young you think I am, but
86.
Okay. But I watched this and I was so angry that I wanted to stop watching it, and I was like, "You have to finish it for the podcast."
Yes.
But I was like,
Yeah, it got.
I got
Okay,
a
everything
kick
was
out of
off.
just that you had to watch. I was like, Tiffany has to watch this garbage.
the one bright star. I was like, "Oh, look at Holly Robinson Peete in her first movie." And,
Holly
like, to
Robinson
know
Peete, yes.
What I watch a lot of her on like Hallmark movies and mysteries, but it's like, "Oh, look at her beginning." Okay,
Was she
first
on
of
Hang
all,
with Mr. Cooper? Is that
yeah.
what her big one was? Like, I remember being in love with her, and she married Rodney Peete.
She was
Yep,
on
they're
21
still
Jump Street,
married.
right?
Oh, they are?
Yep, that too.
She was on that too? Oh, yeah.
So
Right
it
away,
was funny
yeah.
because then I looked up the credits, and that was her actual first movie.
Oh, it was. She
so
didn't
I
have
was
many
like,
lines.
that was cute, but it's, it's
She
great.
was in
She'd
it,
done
though,
like
yeah.
a TV
She's
show
a
and
rock
a TV
star.
movie,
Yeah.
and then she became. This was her first movie.
And they all played their own instruments. They really played them.
Yeah,
on it.
but
I read
okay,
it.
let's just talk about
that
the writing.
really?
Was
I
like,
think so.
what is the goal here?
It was
What is-
86.
What
That's
is
all
the
I'm
writing
keep saying.
goal?
It's-
George Lucas was George Lucas. He knew better.
I think he was thinking, what would sell a lot of toys is
Maybe.
Howard the Duck. Like he'd be super cuddly, but
He wasn't.
I mean, he looks like that if you just look at him. But then, like as he's in this, I think they were trying to balance the Howard the Duck idea with the fact that it's the comic book. It's really kind of caustic and satirical, and generally sort of geared towards. I wouldn't say it's adult, but the humor of it, I think, is more.
It was Marvel
meta, at
trying
least,
to push into the, being as adult as they can and still have like kids reading this comic
Like
book.
Adult Swim before Adult Swim.
Right.
But it was like,
I remember thinking it was adult when I was a kid. I remember thinking I shouldn't
it's
be.
very
when I
much-
saw the duck boobs at the begining, I remember thinking, I'm not supposed to be watching this.
exactly. Like that's in the
That was
first
so-
5 minutes. You're like, wait,
Yeah.
why am I looking at duck boobs?
Not even that. Like it's one of those.
When I saw the duck boobs, I was like, yes, TBJ has to watch
I
duck
was
boobs.
like,
It's
could you
one
not
of those
have
weird.
had bubbles over them? This was the 80s where everyone put
And
bubbles
ducks don't
over
have
theirs.
boobs.
Right, yeah, I'm saying, like,
ducks don't
it-
have
it-
boobs.
it
But
made
they
it
were
look weird.
humanizing. They were
Yeah,
humanizing
I
these
guess.
ducks. But I was like, why? What? There's a
We
way
didn't see
we
any
could have
duck
done
balls.
this scene, and they had to make that, right? You had
Yeah.
to make this costume.
They
Or
went
when he-
all
and
out to
somebody
have
had to
duck
be
boobs.
like duck boobs.
Even before
We need
that,
duck
You
boobs.
when
know
he
what
sat
happened
down-
there? That they sat down to organize. All right, who's going to make the duck boobs? And there was one guy in the back said, "I really want to make the duck boobs."
Yes.
and they
someone
happened to be
said-
Christian Bale as Batman.
Someone probably said, "Do we need duck boobs?" And he was like,
Yes, we need.
We gotta
duck
have
boobs.
duck boobs.
All right, someone clear duck boobs with George Lucas.
Yeah, but it was like that's the first.
That was the
5
conversation
minutes.
people had in the 80s.
But even him,
Keep in mind, everybody was on coke that was making it.
that's also accurate. But it's like even Howard himself is so misogynistic.
Yeah.
But they teeter. Sometimes he's like, "Oh, cute. I just need help. I want to get back to my home." Hey, when he first meets the cherry bombs, he like touches each girl sexually, and I'm like, "What are we doing?"
Yeah.
Weird little
Even
cigar chomping.
If you had made this movie and said, "All right, here is an over sexualized character in a cartoon form, like in a Jessica Rabbit," right?
Yeah.
If you had told me this what it was, it's still problematic, but I
Yeah.
wouldn't be like, "What the hell?"
Right.
This movie, because you're like,
well, at the beginning, he's
I'm
looking
just a poor duck and I need somewhere to be to get home. Hey, ladies, what can't be resisted? Like, that was his whole vibe the entire movie. And I was like, this is creepy.
It's it's
But when he did have the chance to sleep with Leah Thompson, he was like, no.
But it was still in a
Which was
creepy way. But,
I was like, if she has sex with a duck, is that
but
weird?
on that, they're
all
flirting.
right. Just say that one more time
If
out
she has
loud.
sex with a duck, is that weird?
Yes. the
That was a
answer is
question
yes.
you had.
Yeah.
You had to ask the
But
question.
he was a human duck. Like
No,
he's
no,
a
no,
human
no,
duck.
no, no.
But no, sometimes in the movie, people look at him, they scream like, "Oh my god!" And then other times, everybody's completely fine with a duck walking around. Like a
Well,
puppy.
and he was such a not nice duck either. I think
Yeah.
that's the other thing. Like
He was
like,
a dick
"Ugh."
duck.
right?
And that's kind of like the joke is that, he looks like a cuddly kid's character, but he's an absolute dick. And apparently in the comics, he's a lot more caustic.
That's the thing. I was surprised he wasn't more of a dick. Like I remembered him being more of like a raw.
But if you had made
I thought he was
him
Andrew
that-
Dice Clay is what he was supposed to be.
Right,
kind of
right.
thing.
If
But then
that's
he
where
wasn't
we were
sometimes.
going,
Yeah.
again, still problematic AF,
Right.
but we picked a direction and we went that way.
But they kinda
I thought
danced
this
around it,
movie
yeah.
went back and forth on the tone they wanted, which made it even more like, what the hell?
Do we feel sorry for him or is he wrong?
Well, not even
is
that.
he
It's
like
like
Cartman
they're
from South
so-
Park,
I was
or
like,
is he?
Make up your mind as a movie. Like, where are we going? Because if he was the Andrew Dice Clay of Ducks, cool, whatever. I still would have been like, oh my God, why is this happening? But I would have got it. I'd be like, okay, that's his character. But it went back and forth so much.
Yeah, we couldn't quite settle on how. I'm sure it was like the 80s need to
was just so
be
80s.
as big appeal as possible, but also try to.
Like that whole diner scene was so 80s, like that.
Yes.
Those hunters and him fighting everybody, and the quack foo, and that whole just everything in there was so like.
And all the like the ADR, like all the looping dialogue that you put over it, it's just.
What about the awesome
so
electric the lasers
annoying.
and things coming out of his
my
finger?
God.
Oh,
The lady, yeah. I love all that ridiculous. I get when I watch movies from the 80s, I stop paying attention. I just watch like I look at what they're wearing, and then I try to fathom like, oh yeah, they don't have cell phones. None of those people know what a cell phone is. Like they have VCRs at home set to tape
Betamax.
Yeah, they don't have answering machines yet.
Or like
stupid things like
livable
that.
apartments. Let's think about where she lived.
Yeah.
Yeah. Even before you got to that scene, like when she climbs in the bed to let's just watch a movie. You get like a huge ass shot, and I was like, the director was like, this is a great shot to have before she lays in the bed with a duck.
Right, yeah.
And I'm like, someone chose that, right? Like you filmed a bunch of things, and when you edited it, you were like, Leah Thompson's ass needs to be in this shot.
Well, Leah Thompson's character is actually in the comics as well.
Okay.
Swissler.
And when the first time he meets her in the comic, she's skimpily dressed and she has like chains on. So it had like
Skimpily.
this. Yeah, she had like it was like a bikini or something, and like there's these chains, and she was running from something, and Howard the Duck, just like in a movie, comes in
Comes
and
to
he
the
saves
rescue.
her. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's I talked
The
to
damsel in distress thing was pretty heavy in this.
Yeah, it's like she's
yes.
just always captured and stuff.
And every time she speaks, it's like, oh, Howard. Oh, no.
Howard.
Oh,
Yeah.
everybody. That's how she speaks to everyone in the film. She's like, okay. Oh, no. Like, girl.
Yeah.
But she kind of gave me Dorothy vibe when she was talking. I felt like, oh, Toto. It had that.
It
same-
was, but then you over-sexualized her.
Yeah.
Like, pick one. She could be a damsel and not sound like, oh, no. What do you mean?
Well, it's kind of hard to buy that she's a badass punk rock chick because of that.
Again,
it's
contradiction on contradiction on contradiction.
Completely.
Yeah.
But I love that badass female biker gang at the beginning. That's a little.
Yeah, while
like,
they're riding through
I
town.
was like, what is this?
I mean, they
80s?
exist.
Yeah, but not like
Mad
that.
Max-ish.
No, they existed like that. They were just at different bars. That
Well,
you
they were wearing
frequented.
wigs. Like they were all wearing wigs. I mean, it was obvious they were wigs, and I was like, they didn't. I'm sure there were badass women biker gangs, but I don't think they look like that. I think they look
No.
like Eileen Wuornos. You know,
But again, that's the choice of people filming.
Yeah.
Somebody in wardrobe and makeup and hair was like, "Yep,
Punk
that's
rock is the
good."
thing.
Get approval from the director, and the director said, "Thumbs up." Someone was making choices before
Yeah.
this went to film.
I mean, maybe people did wear those
and
spiky
someone
wigs,
was
pink
also
wigs.
giving a thumbs up on the things that we saw.
everything
And
you
I am
saw.
concerned about those people.
That was 86.
Even
It was a
still.
different world. I mean, it really shows you like this is, and that's what passed for entertainment. Like that's what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
That's what every
Well,
movie
it
was
didn't
like. Campy
pass
like
because it flopped.
Yeah, it did
So
flop.
it did not
Yeah, it's true.
pass
It did not. It failed it.
miserably.
I'm trying to think. What were the top movies in 1986?
Top Gun,
Was it?
Transformers the movie. Wait, I think that bombed too.
Did it?
Yeah, I think at the time, yeah, I really loved it.
Short
but
Circuit, Pretty in Pink, Labyrinth,
Short Circuit with like the really
Ferris
racist
Bueller,
Australian-
Ferris
Five
Bueller's Day
Alive.
Off.
I love
Pretty in
Short
Pink
Circuit.
also
but-
had a little some racist underneath.
Need more input, Stephanie.
and Hunt.
There were a lot of
I
people.
love Short
from-
Circuit because it had robot in it. I love robots.
was more than one Ferris Bueller's Day Off part. It was like Ferris Bueller's Day Off and Back to the Future cast got together in this because there was Leah Thompson. There was somebody else from Back to the Future I saw. I think there was the principal from Ferris Bueller, and there's somebody else from Ferris Bueller in this. I'm trying to remember.
Yeah, but it's still.
Anyway, there was a couple of different scenes.
I mean,
that guy's in everything.
Shout out to Leah Thompson, Tim Robbins.
Tim
Todd
Robbins.
Robinson. Like there are a lot of people who were
Philzy.
before they were
Philzy.
like who they were.
Right.
This was like an avenue into it, which is why I almost wish it was a good movie.
I wonder what they say when you ask them about this movie now.
I know Leah Thompson recently made a joke about, like on Twitter, I can't remember what it was, something about, there was some meme going around like, this seems really weird, and coming from me, who, like, the weirdest thing they did. And she was like,
Right.
this thing Trump did seems really weird, and I kissed a duck on
Yeah.
the screen.
Oh,
or
right,
something.
yeah.
But she's also on board with a remake of said movie.
Really?
In
Like
the MCU style.
I don't remember what she said, but she would be down for.
Now that
Like an ironic remake of it.
now
Yeah.
they use that actual the same duck right in the post credit scene from Guardians of the Galaxy.
It's not the same duck.
But it
Yeah,
is.
it's-
It is Howard the Duck, but more closer to the comic version as a guy.
Oh, so it wasn't the same puppet.
He's got the
I thought
little
it was
hat
same
and the tie.
Not a
Or
puppet.
the
No,
same
it's-
costume. I mean,
It was
yeah.
all
Yeah.
CG.
Oh, it was.
Yeah, and he was in the collector's collection of weird animals
And
and
he
stuff.
was in Volume 2 and in Endgame.
Yeah, like here's a
Yeah,
brief
he
shot
was
of
in
him
Endgame.
in the big superhero
Really?
fight scene. There's Howard the Duck there with a
Oh,
gun.
you don't remember? You don't remember Endgame? I don't know
No,
why I mentioned that.
I was.
No.
Yeah.
Just know that he exists in Marvel, which is also the weirdest thing that he exists in Marvel.
Well, he's a
Oh, we
duck
got
from
Spider
Space
Ham.
Duck World.
Spider-Man is a dude.
I said
who
Spider Ham.
Oh, okay, I thought you said Spider-Man. I was like,
Spider
yeah,
Ham is
still
the
dumb.
pig.
Peter
Still
Porker.
dumb.
Peter Porker Spider Ham, which is in the
No, he's in
into the
the
multiverse,
Miles-
into
yeah,
the
Miles Morales
Spider-Verse.
one.
Which,
Yeah, all I kept saying is this is dumb. I kept pressing my remote to be like, how much more time do I have? How much more time do I have? How much more
Yeah.
time?
I think Handy
and
has,
at the very end, it gets really like repetitive and
Yes.
that like go kart flyer flight
Yeah,
chase thing
went on
just goes
forever.
on forever.
Even before they were chasing, like in the lab when he's trying to like get the beam ready, I'm like, this is taking too long. This scene in itself.
driving a little
Like, can we-
laser tank around and a
Can we
big
can we
weird.
get to the point?
All I really remembered about it, I hadn't seen it in a while. I saw it when I was a kid, and I remember it being like, "Oh, this is weird. This is
Yeah.
duck boobs." And then all I remembered was that and the theme song at the end.
Yes.
Howard the Duck.
The theme song, which did better than the actual movie.
Oh, really? Was
Yeah.
that actually on the charts?
Yep. It did better than the movie.
Yeah.
The other thing I want to talk about that was in it. Holly Robinson Pete. So they did. The girls all sang. They really sang, and Leah Thompson I think really played the guitar. She still has the guitar, I guess, and still plays it. But the drummer, I don't know if you guys remember this show, but she was a twin on a show called Double Trouble. Their names were Kate and Allie on that show, and there was a show called Kate and Allie.
Oh, okay.
But the twins from Double Trouble, one of the twins, I don't know which one, it was the drummer. So there you go. Because I recognize her from somewhere. Like, who is that?
I knew her face, but I didn't know where
Yeah.
I knew it from. And I
Remember
didn't
that show,
care
Double
to
Trouble?
research.
Yeah.
I didn't care to research it anymore.
did.
Yeah.
I mean, once
researched
I was done, I was like, I'm
Yeah, you
so,
so done with that.
Now, all right, was
This.
Double Trouble? They were twins, and they were also witches, or was that a different?
No,
show?
you're thinking of
No. Out
of
Tia
This World?
Tamara.
They're
No,
just teenage twins.
there was some show where that was like that.
That was
It was
just
that syndicated
witches.
kind of thing where like they could, the mom and the daughter or something could freeze time. Like there's the opening sequence where like paint can has fallen off a ladder and they freeze it. And I
Maybe-
thought it was the
maybe
twins
it
were
is
also
that.
witches or something. I might be wrong.
You listen.
I am probably wrong, but
No, you might be right.
or maybe that was a show called Out of This World,
Yeah, Out of This
where
World,
like
Eve.
a teenage daughter had an alien.
Maybe it wasn't called
Dad.
Double Trouble. 1984 TV series. Yes, these two
I think there's a couple different ones I'm
white
mixing up.
girls.
But I talked to my friend who is a big Howard the Duck fan, not of this movie, but of the
Okay.
comic character. The George Lucas version is not really that close to the comics Howard.
Okay.
'Cause I haven't read a whole lot of Howard the Duck, much at all. But he said, like, Howard is more caustic. Seth Green's voice is closer to what he should be like. You know, if you heard Seth Green voice anything over,
That would make sense.
he's always a reluctant hero.
You know what? The twins that are on the show are also, I think they're Katie Seagal's children. No, sister maybe. Katie Seagal. You know who that is from Married with
yeah.
Children.
And
Peggy Bundy
in the current
from
show,
the show Rebel, which got canceled already.
Really?
Yeah, it was a pretty good show too.
They might be. I mean,
It was
we
based
have-
on Aaron Brockovich's
They are
life.
her, I think, sister.
We have all these Olsen twins, so or Olsen sisters, two
Right,
twins and
lots of twins.
Elizabeth. So it's very possible.
Adventure into Fear, number 19, was Howard the Duck's first appearance, alongside of Man Thing.
The Man Thing.
Yeah.
Was he the
Gene
Man
and Liz
Thing?
Seagal. One of
Man
those-
Thing is basically Marvel's Swamp Thing. But the biggest joke anyone ever does about Man Thing is that one time there was an issue that
Yes,
was a
they're the
larger than
younger
usual.
sisters.
Yeah, sorry.
The larger than usual Man Thing issue was referred to as Giant Size Man Thing on the cover, and everyone goes,
That's
Penises.
so
Whoa.
over sexualized.
yeah. I mean, but like it's Man Thing stories are mostly like weird, dark, horror-y kind of things, or weird, mystical, whatever.
Yeah.
Because he's just kind of this unspeaking swamp monster that whatsoever knows fear burns the Man Thing's touch is the catchphrase to it. So
See, I'd watch that over another Howard the Duck.
Yeah.
If you brought back Howard the Duck in a very, like you said, Seth voice, living his life, not over sexualizing Leah Thompson.
But you know they wouldn't do that this time.
2021.
They'd probably
with
make
the
it more
satirical
adult, don't you
touches,
think? Yeah.
but adult in a way where the tone is clear. Like, what is that? BoJack Horseman crap. I don't even like that. But he is like
Will Arnett.
Yes, I don't love it. One of my kids loves that show, but he is very much an asshole of a horse movie star who's over sexualized. But you
all
know
horses assholes,
that,
though?
I think so.
I have fucking.
But
hate
you know
horses.
that, right? So when you're watching the show,
Asshole
you aren't like confused or that is who he is as a character, and
Yeah.
everyone's operating around
It's
that.
the Rick Sanchez effect.
Yeah.
Well, this,
but
this just wasn't done
you could
well,
bring
written
back
well.
Howard the Duck in that form, and I think it could be successful. I may not watch it, but I think
We're going to see it together if
Nope.
it comes back
Right.
out.
no. Tiffany already has a migraine that day, so that's a no. So they claim it now.
Is it Fugitive?
Yep, Fugitive has a migraine that day, so she can't. But I think it could work. It could have probably worked even in '86. Let's be clear. They knew how. George Lucas knew how to make movies. He's not a dumb
Yeah.
person. He was a successful creator. I don't know if he just handed off the baton. I don't know if he just yesed everything too much.
I think he didn't know why. Like, I don't think he knew why Star
He
Wars
didn't have a
was
clear
success.
why.
Like, Star Wars was supposed to be like a shitty B movie, and it was a huge success. So I
Right.
think he thought, I could just make everything on accident.
But also to be clear, there is a cult following of Howard the
There
Duck
is,
fans. So just like, Rocky Horror Picture Show was never supposed to be a
true.
hit.
But people
they
love
have
throwing
a
toast. They
large
go to it.
cult following where you dress up and you go. So he has a cult following. People
So does Donald Trump.
people out there in the world enjoy this.
Yeah.
I just
There's a cult following
I
and then
did
an
enjoy
actual
rewatching.
cult. I think that's more what Trump
Like,
Thank
I
you.
remember
That's a
as a kid, like
clarification.
when she was like searching through his wallet, suddenly I was like, there's a condom in that wallet. There's a condom in that wallet. And I think I remember that from being a kid. And that was one of the moments where I was like, I shouldn't know what that is. Or like, what? Maybe I figured out what it was. But why wasn't it in a wrapper?
Can
And
we point out
and he
that it
doesn't-
was
where's
just
his
loose?
Oh,
Yeah, does he have a-
Howard.
Oh, Howard.
Oh, Ducky. And she calls him
Howard.
Ducky the rest of the movie. Ducky.
Got duck wiener.
Ducky.
But did they ever even explain why his recliner just started shooting off? And like I rewound it
Yeah,
back, I was
they
like,
did.
wait, did they ever? Why did it just suddenly happen? Like he didn't like pull a lever or
No.
Because they was working on it in this lab in Cleveland.
those guys working on that lab caused
Cuyahoga
that to
County,
happen,
and
right?
it just opened up this reference.
They were pointing. Their explanation was they were pointing their laser at something else. Something took over. It ended up going in another direction, and they think that's why it pulled Howard
Okay,
to Earth.
that's right. I know they explained it, but I thought they just used a bunch of crazy
But
science
because
terms,
then they talk about when they tried to reverse it. That's how that other creature got down. It was
those other ones-
redirected.
yeah, the other ones.
warlord.
Right. Which also, can we talk about that creature in
Now,
the
that's
film?
in the comic books. They said
Because that was an interesting creature to look at.
Yeah, weird
animated
mouth monster,
mouth
cloth
monster thing.
spider.
It looked
thing.
like it reminded me like King Kong, like you know how they like the little stop motion kind of overlay.
Yeah,
But
really
even his
bad
like tongue
animation.
thing was very phallic. I just want to point that out because I was like, where were their brains when they were making this? And maybe you're right, they were all high.
Everybody was on cocaine. So yeah, this wasn't a bad. I mean, this wasn't a good movie by any means. And we got to wrap up though. So this is our Howard the Duck. Like we watched Howard the Duck.
It was dumb.
It didn't answer a lot of my questions. I just was like, I guess I wanted to see it after now that I watch movies in a different kind of Marvel way. And this is a Marvel movie technically. So I want to be able to say I remember it. I've watched it. I knew I watched it before, and it's not
Still
very
dumb.
It's not very Marvel-y. It's pretty shitty.
It's not anything-y. It's not a good movie-y.
It's definitely 80s kitschy though.
Very campy.
Like campy. Like
Yes, but there are good campy movies.
Like
and
Meatballs.
this
But there's a lot of
was
bad
not
campy
one
movies.
of them.
Not literal camp.
but this is like
Meatballs.
this is like
Well,
what's
Meatballs
that?
is the campy movie. You know what you saying?
It is.
What's that clown
so is
movie?
Friday the 13th.
What's that clown movie we saw in the
Okay,
80s? That
Which
clown with
clown?
Danny DeVito, is that Shakes the Clown?
Yeah, that's 91, I believe.
It's like
Bobcat Goldthwait.
This is like
not
that.
Danny
Like
DeVito.
it's
Oh
like
God, Bobcat.
this is in the same vein. Like those movies that were Short Circuit. I feel like is like this. Like
You don't like Short Circuit?
I like Short Circuit,
No, I
except
don't
you know
think so.
the
I mean, I think
super
it's
racist Fisher Stevens character.
yeah, it's like dumb 80s campy, crappy. Like what's the one that's kind of like E.T. but it's a different
Gremlins
monster that comes
Ghoulies.
down and makes friends with a boy. You know?
Oh, Mac and Me?
Mac and Me, like that. This kind of crap, like that's like some kind of like stupid looking
I'm amazed that I
robot
knew
or
that just like
monster
that.
that's terribly animated and says catchphrases the whole
Gremlins,
time.
Critters.
But I can watch Gremlins. Like
Mm-hmm.
I can do these
Yeah,
things. Howard the Duck. If I never have to watch
Tremors.
Howard the Duck again.
You should have picked
Here's
Spaceballs.
the thing.
I should've.
You never have to watch Howard the Duck again.
Hooray!
Yeah, there's no reason you ever have to
Oh wait,
watch
let
it.
me say it in Leah's. Hooray, Andy!
Oh, I will tell you, every time I was watching this, and I watched this in like chunks too. I couldn't take it all. in
I
one
ended up
sitting.
sitting one through. I did
this
want
like
to.
8 different times. Every time I was watching, my wife was like, "Why are you watching
Yeah,
this?"
I would get like through the first 15 minutes, and then like I could be watching something else.
I'm watching
And
it for a
I gotta
podcast.
watch, yeah.
I'm
I
watching it for a
made
podcast.
myself.
Like I
sit
just
there.
finished it Thursday.
Forced myself. I finished it last night because I was talking to her yesterday. I was like, "Oh God, I've been putting it off for so long."
got to the end?
and he
You
was like,
watched the
"No,
whole
I
thing?
watched the whole
Okay.
thing begrudgingly. That's why I keep
we
picking.
should
I
be
kept
quizzing her.
picking
Did
up
you
my
really-
remote and going, "How many more minutes left? Okay, I hit pause. How many more?"
You at least like the Budweiser scene, right? When they're drinking Budweisers.
No, I don't like beer, so that wouldn't have entertained me. But yeah, I think Tiffany's consensus, which was the rest of America's consensus in 1986, is it's a no for me, dog.
Holly Robinson Pete's first movie, Tiffany hates.
I love Holly Robinson Pete. Did not like this movie.
I love that you love her Hallmark movies, though.
I
Like, that's-
do.
Yeah. So if there was
I mean,
a
I
little-
liked her on Hang. I grew up
She's
watching
also,
her
she
on Hanging
also
with
was
Mr.
on
Cooper.
the last season of American Housewife. I know too much shit.
Yes. Well,
I
this
did
was
not
only
watch
good
that
because
show.
of her. Andy, best favorite movie so far of the Marvel?
No, it's not very
Movies of
good.
all time?
And it gets really annoying.
I put it
as
just
longer
above
goes on.
Thor.
What the heck is wrong with
I
you?
just, I'm kidding. I'm kidding.
All right. Well, last question on this. We got to go. Will any of you watch this again?
Hell
No, but I would if they do an MCU version of Howard the Duck. I'll be curious to see how that
If-
turns
if
out.
an
Especially
MCU
if they use the villain Dr. Bong, who has a big bell on his head, and he can hit himself
I
in the
kind
head.
of like Dr. Bong. I like
Yeah.
that idea. If they do a Howard the Duck MCU movie, you won't watch this first and
No,
see that.
I've seen it enough. Two
I
times,
have. We have just watched this first. And
two
now that's all we
times
need
in
to
a
do.
lifetime.
Will you watch it after doing an edible?
No, that'd
No.
probably make
But
it
but I was
worse.
telling Joe that this was a movie that if you was high, you
Yes,
would probably
that's
laugh
what
the entire time.
Yeah.
No, I'm gonna
It
say
would be
for
good.
me, probably
high.
not.
He wished he
I'd
was
probably
high.
be like this.
That's what he said.
If
yeah.
you were high in 1986,
Yeah.
Even if you're high now, just if you've never seen it, you'd
no,
be like,
I'd
"Whoa."
be even more aggravated.
My son was watching it for a little bit with me, like just walking through, and he'd stop and watch. He was like, "This is the world I lived in 1986. This is the world it was when I was 10. This is what the world was like." I said that to my daughter too. I was like, this is the world was like. There were talking ducks
It was
everywhere,
trash.
and this was what all the girls looked like them, like the punk rock chick.
I mean, there
That's
were a
what
lot of
everyone
girls who
looked
did
like,
look
yeah.
like that in the 80s.
That was my world. She was like,
Joe,
"Yeah."
what was your consensus on the movie, real quick? in this minute we have?
Yeah, it was hard to get through. It was terrible, but there were at the end, like the last couple laser scenes and everything. I was like, oh, it reminds me of being campy 80s. So
Okay, so
I kind
I
of
think.
enjoyed. I didn't enjoy it.
What's the next movie?
The next
Before we
one
go?
we decided was
Well, one or the other. I remember.
It would be
chose
mine then.
The 4-hour Justice League, and then
Rise of the Silver Surfer, Fantastic Four.
Fantastic
Silver
Four
Surfer
2.
one. Yours next,
You're
and
next,
then
yeah.
the Lego Batman. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
So Rise of the Silver Surfer is what we'll do next.
All right.
Fantastic Four.
Before we jump into phase 2 of the MCU.
Fantastic Four.
All right.
All right.
First movie randomly outside of
Everybody
MCU,
hated
but
it.
oddly
Everybody's
enough,
sad that we watched it.
hated it.
I apologize, everybody. But this will be a good barometer of everything else. Now we have a 0 stars movie
Now
from
we,
everybody.
now we are reminded of what
I'll give it
crappy
1
looks
star.
like.
We reached our nadir.
0.
I'll give it 1 star because of the girl from Double Trouble, which is not a. They didn't have magic powers in that. I just
Okay.
All right.
And Tim
All right.
Robbins.
There we go.
Enough of this.
And Holly Robinson Peete.
All right. Later, Nerd High.
Bye, everybody.
Later.
You want to say anything? Any new words? Any new goodbyes?
So we're starting with the sequel to Fantastic Four, not the first
Exactly.
one. Okay.
Two is always better than one. Oh yeah.
They say I can't rap about the president no more, but evidently they don't see we in the streets still poor. Still more incarceration of my kinsmen by the prisons, and people thinking this election to end in racism. Proud over pessimism, glad to see Obama, but don't expect me not to speak out when I still see problems.
The Nerd School Podcast.
Nerd School is a member of the Queen City Podcast Network, powered by Ortho Carolina. Now offering video visits so you can take control of your orthopedic care from the comfort of your home. Schedule online at orthocarolina.com. Ortho Carolina, you improved.
Listen, people can make fun of me for my holiday movies all we want to, but I'm like, are you alive? Did I fuss at you today? Did I yell about anything? All right, then. You're welcome. You better thank Hallmark for keeping me safe.